exactly where we were that day. What a remarkable thing when you look at that. Now, that's your Kennedy assassination right there. But let's start off a little bit. Let's move a little bit before the Kennedy assassination and try and give you some idea of why that might have happened. This fellow up here is Dwight David Eisenhower. He was president right before John F. Kennedy. This is Richard Nixon, and he is his vice president of the United States. And this little man here is a fellow by the name of Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro runs an island which is called Cuba. And what happened before Fidel came in, he overthrew a fellow by the name of Batista. And when he overthrew Batista, what happened was he decided he was going to get rid of undesirables on the island of Cuba. That meant the syndicate, or any mobsters that were on there. And so he closed all their casinos and took over all their gambling and their prostitution places, all of them. They said for the syndicate, this was just like Nevada and Atlantic City combined. Combined. That's how much this loss was to them. So they won this meeting. Now, the interesting thing is this. Jackie is still upstairs, and she did not intend to come down for breakfast at all. She just wanted to be on upstairs, getting herself ready to be able to go out to Carsdale Airport, and then from there to go to Loves Field and forward to the trademark, Dallas, Texas. But first, they have to go then to Carsdale Airport first, and then from there, they have to go hit a plane for about 13 minutes, which will land them in Dallas, Texas. 10:35 a.m. 10:40, and here they are going through Fort Worth right here with the crowds. They're, very waving the whole shot, heading towards the airport. This is what they get treated with when they go to Dallas. Look at this. Wanted for treason. Welcome, Mr. Kennedy, to Dallas. And here's all these listing things against Kennedy. Now, here's why you have to be very, very careful about what is put out on things, which can get people angry. See, it says Nixon predicts JFK may drop Johnson. Can you imagine that happening in that city? And those people are standing there and figuring, hey, Nixon says they're going to drop our boy. They're going to drop him. So that little bomb was dropped in there, but Nixon also was there for a reason as well. There was a pop bottlers convention that he was involved in. He was a lawyer for the Pepsi-Cola company, which also was being sponsored by Joan Crawford. And 2 days before that, Lyndon Johnson had spoken at that same convention. So, as the Kennedy's plane is coming down on Loves Field, only a few moments prior, Nixon's plane is leaving. So that's kind of our little bit of scenario there, which is kind of interesting. Two of them almost met, didn't they? So here they are coming off the plane. It's 11:40 a.m. And again, there is Governor Connally and his wife Nellie, and they were coming behind the Kennedys. What's really interesting, just so that you know, is there was kind of a protocol type thing. And what you would do is you would have one plane that would be the vice presidential plane, and then the president's plane. The president's plane had to circle until the vice presidential plane landed first. The reason being is Lyndon Johnson, the vice president, had to be there on the end to shake the president's hand as they came off. And this happened at every airport, every location, every stop. They had to meet the mayor. They had to meet them all right within the line. So as they're coming off this plane, that's what they're going to be meeting on the bottom. But the interesting thing is John F. Kennedy here was not happy. Not happy at all because of Jackie. And the reason, Jackie's discomfort. Jackie was told, he was told it was going to be cool at that point. It was very, very warm. Jackie Kennedy here is wearing a wool outfit. All of her clothes were packed for colder weather. And unfortunately, John F. Kennedy could not stop the clothes going down before she did. So they were too late. So that's why she's wearing a wool outfit when actually it was quite warm that day. With John Connally, and he's tipping his hat to Jackie. Jackie really wasn't overly fond of John Connally because John Connally's biggest person besides Lyndon Johnson was John Connally. He really liked himself, and so he's tipping his hat to her, But actually his entire feeling was, you know what, they're all here to see me. They're all here to see me. Yeah, the president's icing on the cake. But after all, I got this state right where it is, and they all love me, which they did. He would be sitting, John Connally would be sitting in the jump seats here with his, he'd be sitting here, his wife Nellie would be sitting here, and behind him would be the president, Kennedy, and his wife Jackie. 6 years old. This is Mr. Kellerman right there, Roy Kellerman, and he's 48. You take a look at that, older people are put in charge of the President of the United States. I can't run that fast, and I'm sure they would have had problems trying to do it too. And then there's Clint Hill. So here we have, and see, you can see how higher John F. Kennedy is there, and there's Jackie right next to them. And there is, Bill Greer right there, and there's Roy Kellerman right there. Kellerman would have to fly over Governor Connally to try to get back to the president. There was no way. And then, there he is again. There's Clint Hill, right off of Jackie. And there's an interesting thing that happened here. If you notice, see how we're getting the Jackie squint? It's very, very sunny. And I've still been trying to find a photograph of this to put up here. But there was an argument between the two of them, because what Jackie did was, as soon as this car started to take off from Love's Field, she put her sunglasses on and be sitting there like this. And John F. Kennedy, Jackie, take those glasses off. Jackie, the people won't be able to see you. So you'll see Jackie in videos take the glasses off, kind of sit, look at them for a brief second, sneak them back on again. Jackie, and she'll take them back off again. And all of a sudden they go back on. They're finally, she'll take them off and she'll put them on. She'll take them off finally and leave them off. But it scared the heck out of the Secret Service because, oh my gosh, you're stopping the automobile right now. They did stop the car, they shook the hands. This is the last really close-up of smiling John F. Kennedy and his wife right beforehand. 12 noon, here we are. We're starting downtown Dallas. You can see something that's interesting. Look how close all these people are. Look at them. And they're all over that car. They are so close. Now, Mr. Greer here is doing something kind of interesting. He is holding his car door out. So what happens is he's trying to get the crowds away from the automobile. So that's the only way to do it. If I hold the car door out, then they're going to have to step away from that automobile a little bit. And so with that, you see them there, and look who's back here. There's Clint Hill again. But John F. Kennedy was getting annoyed with Clint Hill. Every time he was back there, he'd look back like, Clint, I told you to stay off the back end of the car. I want people to be able to see me. 12:05, look at this, look at this nice big bus. Anybody that didn't like the Kennedys could throw water on them, anything, right there. And look, you don't really have any police protection on the side, nothing. But again, John F. Kennedy wanted those people off of that car. He wanted to be able to be seen by those folks. So that's why he did that, that's why they did it, but look at those crowds. And they really loved Kennedy. They really did. They weren't down there to, spit on him, they liked him. And here we show a little bit, Clint Hill. Look at his car's almost on top of him. But again, right there with the First Lady. Here we have the Dallas Trade Mart, 12:15, where they were supposed to be heading towards. They never made it, not at all. This is where the famous tables that were raised, all that stuff was going to be ready for him to come in for a Chamber of Commerce lunch, which never happened. Again, the famous Trade Mart. 12:25 p.m. and the Kennedys are coming down through downtown Dallas. I even read somewhere that Safeway used this as a commercial type thing. Of all things, right after the Kennedy assassination, but that's what they did. But again, it's a very nice, cheerful picture of the Kennedys coming through downtown Dallas. And again, we see Clint Hill almost up on the very, very back end. He had to really stay close because look at these people. And there's Kellerman here. You can see the door slightly. See how it's ajar like that? And so he's having to hold all these people back. He is very, very nervous about Jackie. He figures anybody could hurt her. The two of them, like I said, really, he was watching very careful to make sure she wasn't hurt. Next slide. Here they are coming through downtown Dallas, 12:27 p.m. Starting, and down here is where your grassy knoll area is, etc. Dealey Plaza. And we're getting closer. Look at this. It's an overhead shot. So that means somebody was taking pictures from overhead. They could have also shot directly down, couldn't they? Anything on them. And look at Governor Connally. He is looking up, so is his wife. Looking up at the buildings. And again, there's Clint Hill on the back. He's actually having to hold on to the back end of the car to try and ride it. Kennedy kept saying, just keep down, get out, get back. We don't need you here. But Clint Hill was so worried with these crowds that something was going to happen. There he is there. That's how he had to go in the parade route, trying to keep below Kennedy's head. If I keep low enough, I'm still able to keep an eye out on Jackie and be able to do what the president wants. But again, where's our other guy? He's in the front. That's what they want him to do. So here is our famous picture right here. Here is Main Street. And this is how originally there was a newspaper that came out. He was supposed to come straight down Main Street, this direction here, under the underpass, and he was done. However, Mayor Earl Campbell at the end changed the route because what did they want? Maximum exposure for the president. So I'm sure if President Kennedy didn't know the outcome, probably would have been very much in favor. The more he could travel, the more he could come down, of all things, Elm Street, over on right here. But at any rate, this was Main Street. He took a sharp right onto Houston Street, took a sharp left onto Elm Street. Each time the car had to slow down as they were taking a turn. Right here is your grassy knoll area. You can't see it because of this clump of trees, but see this little area here like that? There's a duplicate here. That's where a man by the name of Abraham Zapruder took his famous film, and there was a Stemmons Freeway sign here. Now this is something kind of interesting. At the time, see what it says Hertz Rent-A-Car? It said Chevrolets, not Ford. But later on, they changed it to Ford. Isn't that ironic? And I thought for a tongue-in-cheek for an ad company that Hertz to do that, to change it so it looked just like Ford's Theater with Lincoln, isn't that odd? But again, you had it right about here's the 6th floor depository there, and over here is where he was shot first, and then etc. This is an ironic picture, isn't it? And he's only combing his hair. It is windy there. You can see Jackie's hair is windy. And they're coming right now from Main Street. He is taking his turn, the sudden turn, onto Houston. Now, it was not in the paper that way. However, Lee Harvey Oswald was able to find out because the person who he was with that day who brought him into work had told him earlier, the day before, guess what? I just found out the president's car is going to be passing under our building. And look at these windows that are open, except there's one that isn't. Look at it. Looks like there's an image, but that window is not open. That is your 6th floor depository window right there. Right there. So they're coming down, and it's 12:29. Now, there's Lee Harvey Oswald there, and there's the window right there, and actually it's open there. Here's our parade route coming through, and see, there's the Main Street. It didn't curve like it was supposed to. It came straight down here. So this is what was in the paper, but actually they changed the route. They changed how it was looking. 12:29, and if it was light, I'd show you on there. But anyway, we're starting to come past the buildings. It's still on Houston Street on there, and they're getting closer and closer to the depository. Isn't it amazing how he had such a direct shot? He could have literally just shot right at the president, right there, and been able to get him. But he waited. He waited. And again, there is Mr. Hill. Now, he was told to back off, and again, as the crowds were lighter, he would back off. As they were heavier, he would get back on. And this kept going and going and going. 12:29. Here is 12:30. They are turning. Look at the window. It is open. From the time it was over here, it was closed. There, it is now open. So somebody is looking out that window, and they're starting to turn down famous Elm Street. Note the time, 12:30. So here's Lee Harvey Oswald, and he is now looking out that window. And he's got a Manusur Carcano rifle. I have trouble trying to say that. And that rifle was bought here in Chicago at the Klein Sporting Goods store. It says for about $12 and some change on one of the papers, but I actually read it was about $21.47 for this gun that could kill the President of the United States. And this was the sniper's nest where he was, and he laid his gun across the top and aimed and fired at the President. The first shot missed, by the way, missed the President. So at any rate, so now coming down the hill, and about this point is when Nellie Conley turns back to the President, and she says, "You can't say Dallas doesn't love you, Mr. President." And so with that, he smiled and kept waving. Now, you can see here how he was raised above Governor Connally, can't you? Mm-hmm. So if there was a bullet that came down and struck him here and came out his throat, it would then go into Governor Connally's back, come out below his nipple, go into his wrist, come out the bottom of his wrist, and finally land, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting very animated, in his leg. And so that's what happened there. There is Roy Kellerman right there. There is no way that he'd be able to get to John F. Kennedy at this point. It is too late. 12:30 still, we're still moving. John F. Kennedy, as you can see, his head's still up. Nothing's happened, and look at the Secret Service men. They're just looking forward. They're not looking back, they're not looking at anything. Again, he is keeping an eye out on Jackie Kennedy right there. Over here, it's blurry, but right over here is actually Abraham Zapruder. And he's standing there getting ready to do the video. In fact, he's already doing that. However, this Stemmons Freeway sign is blocking his view. Now, the first bullet has already passed. The second one is ready to engage. And so, if you notice, there's a family here, which is the Nelson family right here, and they are the Newman family. And if you notice, they're standing there with their two little children. There's a famous photograph of them on top of their children. You notice that hasn't happened yet. And everybody here is doing what I would be doing. Here comes the president. Here he comes. Here comes Jackie. And so they're starting to run towards the car. They're all excited. Abraham Zapruder's up over this direction here, and you have your Stemmons Freeway sign, which is, I believe it's here, right there. And so with that, suddenly history is going to start to take effect. So here we have Lee Harvey Oswald, and he's gunning, and he's ready. And he's got this nice sight set right on the president at the back of his head. Just like Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln with John Wilkes Booth, there was a door that was right behind Lincoln. And he bored a hole in the back of the door, so there's a peephole that he looked through. So you have Booth with a peephole, and you have Lee Harvey Oswald with a peephole. And this was about the last minute before he was hit. So here we show, and it's hard to kind of see, but you'll see him clutching his throat. All of a sudden, the second bullet has now engaged. It has now gone into the president, and it's came out his throat. And at this point here, you can see, look where the security guards are looking. Look where they're looking. They're looking backward, aren't they, towards the Texas School Book Depository. Not Clint Hill. He's looking one person, Jackie. That's his whole mode, was to keep on top of Jackie. 12:30 again. Now, President Kennedy's starting to slump. Everything's starting to happen here. And all of a sudden they realize they suddenly have a problem. Here we have Clint Hill. He's suddenly realizing, I got to start to run. Oh my God, I got to protect Jackie. I got to do something. So as he's running towards the car, he's like, oh my God, I hope things are going to be, I hope I can get them down. With this, Abraham Zapruder, and that's Abraham Zapruder there, and there is the Newman family right there, the ones I was telling you on the grass. They're now down, and there is his famous Bell and Howell movie projector there, or camera, and he is now taking his famous Zapruder film. The interesting thing was when you took the name Abraham and put it together with the Lincoln Continental, you suddenly had Abraham Lincoln, and you had suddenly Kennedy suddenly assassinated, which is like, ooh, is that eerie? So I did some of the Zapruder film here. I did not put the headshot in. I felt it was disrespectful. So here's the president here waving, smiling, and here's our Stemmons Freeway sign. Again, we're looking at it how Abraham Zapruder would have looked at it that day. He goes behind the sign, and all of a sudden, bam, he's just been shot. The second shot is hit through his throat. But if you'll notice, Governor Connally is still just fine. The bullet is still moving at this point. Governor Connally has not, he's still holding onto his Stetson hat. Right there, he's not let it go. And so if I had a bullet hit me, I'd be dropping it like lightning. Here he's turning around trying to find out what just happened, and all of a sudden, bam. Now you can see in his face, his cheeks are suddenly puffing out, and he's suddenly losing air because it went through his lung as well. And he is now being pulled down. Now, again, look at how much higher he is there, so the bullet could come straight down. You will see something, everybody says, well, why didn't John F. Kennedy get out of the way? He had a back brace on. And with the back brace, he could not get down. So with that, he was still lodged up there, he was kind of flailing, and all of a sudden Jackie had to try to get him down. But she said he had a quizzled look on his face. And he was like he wasn't, he didn't say anything. According to Nellie Connolly's book, he did not say one word. So here we have the headshot has already appeared, and Jackie is now starting to go back out on the back of the car. And Clint Hill's like, oh my God, the car is starting to slow down because Mr. Greer, who is up here, who's driver, suddenly realizes there's something wrong. There's something very, very wrong here in the back. So what happens is he turns around and starts to look back and starts to slow the car down. At this point, Jackie, because there's the piece of John F. Kennedy's head flew off on the back end of the car here, she is trying to grab that to try to get it back towards the president. Meantime, Clint Hill is now running up. The car is slowing down. It's like, oh my God, Jackie's going to fall out as soon as they accelerate this car. She's going to fall off, so he's got to get on her. He did not remember him getting his footing back up there, but he literally did something to get Jackie back into the car. He had to literally try to get her back in. Jackie Kennedy did not remember this moment at all for the rest of her life. Here we see the famous spot that he finally got up on the back end of that car, and he's now trying to get Jackie down. In the meantime, she's looking down. She says, my God, they have shot my husband's head off. And she could actually see the inside of his head. That's how bad it was there. Governor Conley screamed out, my God, they're going to kill us all. And that's how bad this situation was. Still 12:30. Look at how fast. This is what he was scared of. Look at how fast that car is going. Jackie would have flown right off. Right off. And they said that the piece of John F. Kennedy's head actually flew off, and they weren't able to find it until later on. But you could see he's trying to get her back into that car. What Jackie did was, remember how she was wearing the white gloves? Was she put her glove on the top of John F. Kennedy's head to try to hold it in place as they were driving. And one of the ministers or Catholic priests said that when he went to administer last rites for the president, and by the way, he was still breathing when he came to Parkland Hospital, he comforted Jackie, he held her hand, and then he left. And when he left, he went, and as he was driving in his car, it's like, why are my hands so sticky? They're sticking to the wheel. It was John F. Kennedy's blood still on his hand as he was holding on the steering column. The Warren Commission book, cover to cover. Oh, is that fun? I'll tell you, it's a long book. This is the one here, if you want to see the Zapruder film. It's about $4.50 on the internet. It's not that expensive. It's called JFK Assassination Files, The Case for Conspiracy. And that, you may want to write that one down, because I didn't put it on there, but I'm going to start to, because somebody asked me the other night. I forgot I had this at home. So, and this is by Robert Groden. This is The Killing of the President. Very graphic book, it is, but it goes into almost every single detail is this book here. And this one, it even goes into the deaths of people, you know, like also this mysterious death in this one. So this is more one of those conspiracy type books, but it's also right on the button of a lot of the stuff. So again, you want to take a look at that. And then this is Nellie Conley's book, Whatever Happened to Governor Conley? The guy who was sitting in the car. Nobody ever talks about him. Well, before she died, she wrote a book, and it's called From Love Field. Good book. And my last one is Mrs. Kennedy and Me. I wish I had the book here. That is by Clint Hill. Please read that book. That book will go into the detail. You can understand why he was kept being told, step back from the car. You can see all these different things with that one book. Very good book. Anything else? Yes?
Was the rifle found in the book depository?
Yes, with his palm print on it.
Okay, and ballistics? Do you not get ballistics off of rifles?
I'm not a gun person, so I don't know.
But I mean, that would have been,
My thinking,
any theory would have been.
Right. Don't know. All I know is I'm just going off of what they said, and I'm learning. Every time people ask me a question, thank you, I try to go further into it, so the next person asks me the same question, I'll know the answer on that. But all I know is that they said ballistics or whatever, it was his palm print was on it.
He just dropped the book in the depository.
I know, it doesn't make sense, does it? When you think about it, why in the world would you leave how he brought that in, supposedly, was he was with a fellow named Wesley Frazier, who was his friend, and he said, well, I got curtain rods in the back of the car, and he had the gun supposedly under the curtain rods, wrapped up. He brought it into the Texas School Book Depository, shoots, and then leaves. To me, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, then running around, going all, and then going to get a gun someplace, and then shooting a police officer, and then hiding, not paying for your ticket. I mean, you're leaving yourself a trail, especially with a dead police officer there. So things don't make sense. They really don't. I don't know if we're ever going to find the answer, but all I'm doing is just presenting the history here. And I could go for hours on the conspiracy type thing. I mean, you could go into one after another, and I think there's a new book that came out, if I'm not mistaken, and the fellow in there thinks it's what the military-industrial complex is what I heard on that one, and that's O'Reilly's book. So, I mean, there's all these theories, all these things. Will we ever know? Well, you know what? We could, at least on one thing. You notice with the Governor Conley part to where he's still holding the hat and Kennedy's going like this? The bullet didn't hit him yet. So at least you might be able to see if you superimpose that picture. There could be things with technology today or in future years we're going to be able to zero in and figure, hey, look at the slow streak. Don't know, but it is fascinating, isn't it? Yes.